Hey friends! Oh my beautiful, beautiful friends! You have found yourself at Old Spool Sewing Studio at the beautiful Jersey Shore. Everything is beautiful. My name is Julia and I am the owner and lead sewing enthusiast here. Today I'm going to show you how to make a super beginner friendly hand sewing project, like this cute little watermelon brooch. So grab your felt, grab your hand sewing needles, and let's get to it. The materials you're going to need to make your very own watermelon brooch are, first and foremost, my watermelon brooch pattern. You can find it linked in the description below on my website, or you can always make your own. It's half a circle, and then this circle is a little bit smaller than that circle. Pretty straightforward, right? You'll need some wool or wool blend felt. I love using wool or wool blend felt because it is better for the environment, and the best thing about this super cute little pin project is that it is extra scrappy. Grab all your small and irregular shaped pieces and you put them to good use. You'll want your fabric scissors for cutting felt and your paper scissors for cutting paper. Obviously, you want to keep these two separate because the more things that you use your fabric scissors on, the quicker they dull. So try and make one pair only for fabric and one pair for everything else. You'll need thread. I have embroidery floss here or regular sewing thread. It's whatever suits your fancy. For this project, I'm going to use black and a light green. You can use whatever colors you'd like. You'll also need hand sewing needles. I love using number 5 embroidery needles because the eye is a little bit bigger and easier to thread with embroidery floss. Optional but super helpful is a needle threader. Here is one that I love to use because it doesn't break so easily. You'll want a dish of pins to help hold your sewing patterns and your pieces together while you sew. And finally, if you're turning it into a keychain, you're going to want a split ring, and if you're turning it into a brooch, you're going to need a locking pin back. Oh, and also, if you're going to turn it into a brooch, I recommend grabbing a glue gun, because this is the best way to attach things like this onto felt. To lead off, you're going to want to cut out your watermelon pattern pieces and grab your felt that you're going to be cutting it out of. Now, if you're making a keychain, you're going to want 2 pieces of green, larger half circles, and 1 piece of your red. And I am making a brooch, so I only need 1 of each. So I'm going to pin these down, cut them out, and get ready to sew. All right, here are my 2 pieces for my felt brooch. I'm going to take the red, place it right on top of the green, and I'm going to grab a pin and pin it in place. Make sure when you pin, your pins go in and out, all the layers, and be mindful because felt's extra thick. If you don't have sewing pins around, safety pins work great for this too, or you can even dab a little bit of glue in the middle, but I recommend a safety pin or sewing pins instead of glue for sure. Now I'm going to get let's do our black first so that we can stitch our face on. So I am going to separate out 2 or 3 strands of my embroidery floss. If you haven't used embroidery floss before, it is stranded, which means that in each piece of this thread, there are actually 6 pieces of thread. So I'm going to separate out 2 or 3 and I'm going to thread my needle, and I'm going to show you how to do 2 French knots to make the eyes. Now that I have my needle threaded, I'm going to tie a knot in one end because I always like to leave one of my strands of thread free while I sew because it helps me fix mistakes. So if you look, I have 1 loose thread there and then I have a knot in the end of this one. So to do a French knot, it's a little bit of a tricky hand sewing technique, but bear with me. They are super satisfying when you get them right. I am going to make 2 little French knots kind of close to the top to create the eyes of my happy little watermelon. Feel free to also practice this on a piece of scrap fabric or scrap felt before you go to your final project. From the back, I am going to poke through where I think my 2 eyes should be. And the nice thing about these French knots is that they are also fastening the red piece of felt to our green piece of felt. So that looks pretty good. This is where I want the eye to be, so I'm going to come from the back to the front. You can see my knot nestles itself against the back. And now I am going to place my project on the table and hold my needle close to the surface of my project while grabbing the working thread with my other hand. I'm going to wrap this thread around my needle 1, 2, 3 times at least, maybe more, 4 or 5 if you have only 1 or 2 strands of thread. And keeping tension on that thread, so see how my thumb holds that thread? I am gonna put the needle right back in the same exact spot I came out of. And then when I pull, keeping tension on the thread with my left hand, I get a little knot. See that? Super cute. All right, now the fun challenge is to try and make the other one at a good spot on your watermelon. I think that looks like a pretty good spot. So let's do it together again. I'm gonna come up from behind and pull tight. I'm going to bring my needle down close to the surface of my working project, grab the working thread, wrap it 1, 2, 3 times, or 4 if you have less thread, tension on the thread, and I'm going to put the needle right back in that same spot. See how I'm keeping tension on the thread? And then all the way through, and there are my eyes. Now alternatively, if you find this embroidery stitch a little too hard to do, I can take my pin out because this is actually holding in place. You can just do a series of little stitches right there, or even if you're feeling extra lazy, just grab a marker and put 2 little dots there. But now that I've got my 2 little French knot eyes, I'm going to draw my little mouth. So my mouth is gonna be a little small. I'm gonna try and center it in that my little face. I'm gonna come from behind, so you can see I'm always moving from behind because that's where my thread is before. I'm gonna come up at the top of my mouth, and I'm going to do a back stitch. So to do a back stitch, the first stitch is I'm gonna go down and back into my fabric. There's one side of the mouth. And a back stitch is actually, you're gonna skip ahead. So if you look, I've skipped a little bit of space. See my needle? And I come forward. And then I'm going to go right back in the same hole at the bottom of that last stitch. You see where I'm going back in? And I pull tight. Can you see my mouth taking form? And then I'm gonna skip ahead again and try and get it at the same height as my last one. That looks pretty good. Might be a little bit of a crooked smile. Pull tight. And then again, I'm gonna go right back in that same hole to have a solid smile. So there is my happy little watermelon. And again, those are just a series of straight stitches, so you can draw your mouth with a marker if you want, or you can try stitching it. And if you make a mistake, all you have to do is unthread your needle and pull all the stitches out, and you can start over, no big deal. Okay, let's do what is called a detached daisy or a seed stitch. Let's do a detached daisy chain to create our watermelon seeds. This is also a little bit of a tricky embroidery technique. If you find it super hard, you can just do a series of 1 running stitch. So come up from the back and go in close to it to create a seed. See, super cute. But I want my seeds to have a little bit more zhuzh to them. So this time I'm gonna come up from the back where I wanna make my seed. And I'm going to put it right back in the same exact hole that I came out of. But real quick, don't pull all the way. Just pull so that you have a little loop left on the front of your project. Very important, leave a loop. Then you're gonna wanna come up from behind, because that's where our thread is right now, it's in the back, a little whiles away. So see, I'm maybe like 1/4 inch away. There's my thumb for scale. And I'm going to come up in the middle of the loop. Now, if you don't come up in the middle of the loop, you're gonna take your loop and put it around your needle. So see how my needle's in the middle of my loop? And now I'm going to pull tight from the front. And see how I kind of pull away from my seed? And look, it makes a super cute little rounded, like flower petal shape. Then I'm going to go right back in the same hole, but if you see, I came out of the loop here, and now I'm going to go back in my same hole from the outside, and that is gonna lock my little detached chain in place. And if you pull too hard, it kind of loses its shape. So let me make it a little bit more. There you are. Super cute. All right, let's do it again. So I'm gonna move over a little bit, try not to jump too far. You wanna stay kind of close. Come up from behind. I'm gonna go back in the same hole. And see how I use my thumb to catch myself so I don't pull it all the way? Perfect. I'm gonna go, let's go in this direction, make my seeds a little crazy. I'm gonna come out right over here in the middle of the loop. If not, you catch your loop. And then when you pull tight, see how my thread catches my loop from getting too small? Perfect. And then I'm gonna go right back in the same hole and pull a little tight, and there's my other seed. So I'm gonna go through and do a whole bunch more seeds just like that. Now that we're done sewing all our little seeds onto our brooch, you're gonna flip over your project and you're gonna have the thread on the back side, and we're gonna tie a knot. So the easiest way to tie a knot is if you take a little stitch, so see I caught a little bit of fabric and a little bit of thread, and put my needle halfway through, and this is really similar to a French knot. So you're gonna wrap your thread around the needle 2 or 3 times, pull it down, so there's my thread wrap, and then I'm gonna pull the needle out the rest of the way, and that forms a knot right against the surface of your project. So you can take your scissors, cut your thread, and there is my slightly messy but super cute little watermelon. I got a little uneven over here, so I'm actually gonna trim that. But be very careful when you trim. Ah, so cute. All right, now let's do our green stitches to give them a little bit more color. So I've gone ahead and I threaded up my needle with a little bit of lime green embroidery floss. And now I'm gonna secure my red piece of felt a little bit stronger to my green piece. So if you see, depending on how many seeds you did, might not really be sticking on that well. And I want a little bit more color. So starting from the back with a knot in my thread, I'm gonna come up right on the corner, close to the edge of the red in just a little bit. And I'm gonna pull tight. Then you make a stitch by going forward a little bit and through all the layers and pulling tight. You want to keep your stitches not too big. Also, see how my seed got a little close to the edge? That's okay. You want to make sure you keep your seeds far enough away from the edge that these running stitches aren't going to get in the way. Now, a running stitch, we're at the back, so we are going to come from the back again and poke up an equal distance away. So whatever the distance of that stitch is how far away you want to come up from this. So see, pull tight. And I want to make another stitch the same length as the one before. And you can see I'm keeping it really close to the edge of my red felt. And you'll just go all the way around, trying to keep your running stitches pretty even till you get back to this corner. When you come to a corner, you'll want to poke up at your corner. See, I've got it the equal distance away, just like all my other stitches. And now I'm just going to start going across the top. If at any point you make a mistake, you unthread your needle, use your needle to pull your last stitches out, and then rethread your needle. Just like before, once you've gotten all the way around, you're going to flip your felt over and you're going to tie a knot. Pick up a little bit of felt, make sure you can't see your needle in the front. Halfway through with your needle, wrap your needle with the working thread at least 2 or 3 times and pull tight. Oop. Then you can cut your thread. Oh, so cute and happy. All right. I kind of want to zhuzh this up a teeny bit more before I make it into a brooch. So I'm actually going to tie a knot in my thread again, and I'm going to do a series of running stitches along my green, just to mimic my running stitches on there. And I'm keeping it close to the edge of my green. Yeah, that looks really cute. So you don't have to do it like this. You can do really however you feel like. You can do different types of stitches if you know embroidery stitches. If you really loved those French knots that we did the eyes, you can do a whole bunch of French knots along here. That would look really cute. Yeah, that's really cute. I like that a lot. Adds a little bit more. So let's tie a knot. I'm gonna move it down here a little bit so I don't see it. Alrighty, and there you go, it's all sewn together. Now, if you are making a keychain, at this point, you're gonna wanna grab your other green piece, put them together. So if this was a cutout piece of green, you'd wanna put them together like this, and you're going to whip stitch them together. You're probably gonna start about at your red or maybe over here, and you're gonna work your way all the way around. And when you get to this point, you're gonna stick your split ring in. Now, if that doesn't really make a lot of sense to you, I would suggest checking out my mama and baby sloth keychain video, because the way that I put together that keychain is just like how you would put together this keychain. You'll want to use a color that either matches the edge or doesn't match, whatever you want, and you'll sew it together and sandwich your keychain into the corner, kind of like that is how you'll want to do it. And you use another piece of felt because this is what the backside looks like, and that's not super cute if that's flapping around on your backpack. This is much cuter if you flip it over and don't see anything else. All right, but we are gonna turn this into a brooch, so I'm going to grab my pin back, flip my guy over and get my hot glue gun nice and hot, put a little bit of glue on here and stick it onto the back. Okay, my glue is dry. Here is my adorable brooch. Now it's time to put her on. Hi guys. I hope that you very promptly put your brooch on your outfit and have gone out into the world and shown it off. I love making things that I can wear, and this is one of them. Just so cute. She's just so happy. Anyway, if you liked today's tutorial, I would love if you gave me a like and if you subscribe to my page. I have filmed this during the 2020 pandemic and my sewing studio is quiet and without students, so this has been a wonderful way for me to connect with you. Thank you, internet. If you have any questions, as always, my information is down below and I'm very easy to get a hold of. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and you can email me. And I would love to hear more ideas for different types of sewing projects. I love beginner-friendly things, but are there any intermediate sewists out there? There might be. My name is Julia. You have found yourself at Old School Sewing Studio in Brielle, New Jersey, and I hope you have fun sewing today.